Hi everyone. Just wanted to do a follow-up story or video to the APOW Foundation video series, just to let you know where all of that came from. So basically APOW has a lot of different influences. The idea started to come together, or the first beginnings of it, when I was around 14 years old. And so I was at school, obviously, in high school then. And basically then it took another step when I was around 18, 19, 20 sort of thing, and then came into being pretty much the complete picture when I was 21. But it's taken all this time for various reasons, and is actually, again, growing into something more now that it's being launched now. It's more of a holistic kind of idea or approach. So basically I was born in Sydney, and I was born into a Catholic family in a predominantly Jewish neighbourhood. Went to a Church of England school that was quite multicultural. Like, Sydney was quite a multicultural city back then, not as much as it is now, but there was definitely a lot of different influences and just learning about the world, all that kind of thing.
I bring all this up because, this was an upbringing that did teach me about morality, about right from wrong, definitely helped instill qualities that are reflected in the project APOW.
And so basically when I was around 18, 19, 20, that sort of thing, I started to understand that there was some environmental problems going on. I started to personally begin to piece that together for myself. And then when I was 21, a friend of mine came back and saw me just after going and doing this meditation retreat. And he was all psyched about it, and his eyes were like really crystal clear, and he was really just glowing, And so I'd obviously known he's been through this amazing experience, and he was like, "You just got to go do this thing." And so I just basically signed up for it pretty much straight away. I finished college in '95, December of '95, and went and did my first one of these meditation retreats in January '96. Then basically did a follow-up meditation retreat 2 weeks after that. So the meditation retreat is it's the 10-day one. A lot of people know it as the one you go to and you can't talk. You got to leave your phone at the door kind of thing. And basically it's called Vipassana, whichever way you want to put it. And it's taught by this guy called Goenka, who was a Burmese Indian, who basically Vipassana is the technique that the Buddha taught. The Buddha was alive about 2,500 years ago in India. The meditation technique survived in India for about 500 years after he died, but then it started to get lost. But during that time, those 500 years, there were periods where people went out into the world and taught the technique in an effort to have it be spread, but also be protected. So all the places in the world that it was sent out to, the one place where they maintained it in its purity was in Burma, which is modern-day Myanmar. And it wasn't a widespread thing there. It was just kind of handed down from teacher to pupil over, millennia, really. So basically this fellow Goenka, in 1969, he brought it back to India. And from there, it's flourishing around the world. It's having a real renaissance. So the Buddha, a lot of people think Buddhism is like a religion. The Buddha is not one person. It's basically a title ascribed to someone who we can all attain what he attained. He basically shows. He was basically like a meditation teacher. He taught the practice of Vipassana.
So the term Buddha means one who is fully enlightened, one who has eradicated all mental impurities and developed all the noble qualities to the highest level. But it's not just that. It also refers to someone who has rediscovered the path. So over time, Buddhas, they come and go, and their teaching lasts for a certain amount of time after they die and during their period of life. But when it's lost, it needs to be rediscovered, and those people that rediscover it are known as Buddhas, whereas those who follow the path and who reach the same level that the Buddhas do, but because they're following the teaching that's already been described and found, they are known as arahants. And both men and women have achieved that status throughout history.
So the term Buddha means that they've refound this technique. So there's been what they say is countless Buddhas in the past.
The most recent one being Gautama.
So people that have found the technique, they then share it. They're teachers. They found the technique to being fully liberated, which is what the Buddha basically means. It's starting to rain here at the moment, so it's a bit of a rainy old day. So the word Buddha is ascribed to people who, when the teachings of the Buddha aren't around because their teachings have faded away since the last one, and they refine the technique, and then they end up spreading it and teaching it again, and so they're known as Buddhas. But people who follow the path that they teach and who reach the stage that they got to, they're known as arahants. So there's been a lot of arahants, and the one who was the most recently known one was a guy called Webu Sayadaw, and he was a Burmese monk, and he basically was a new Goenka's teacher, a fellow by the name of Sayagi Ubakin. And he ended up endorsing Sayagi, telling people that what Sayagi's teaching is the right technique. So I basically just had to move because I've been getting rained on. What's in the foundation videos is basically what's in the Vipassana course. So there's morality, so foundation of morality. So when you go to Vipassana, you have to do take these precepts: not to kill, not to steal, not to lie, not to commit sexual misconduct, not to take intoxicants. So you're basically just on a real sort of, you're living a kind of monastic life when you're there. That's what it's supposed to simulate. So you can really just delve deep into the meditation.
And the technique of Vipassana is really very straightforward and very simple. It's just awareness and equanimity. So people know what it's like to do body scans, where you sort of try and feel what different parts of your body, what's happening in different parts of your body. So if you can think of that on steroids, that's what Vipassana is like, because you sort of build up your awareness to be very acute. So it's doing body scans, being aware of sensation, and being equanimous or non-reactive to them. So we have sensations sometimes that are really nice, and you want to kind of hold on to those, or you want those to happen. And other times there are sensations that happen which are, painful, for example, and you can want to push those away and get rid of them. So the whole technique is just acceptance of the reality as it is, not as you want it to be. And from there, that's where all the magic happens, really. So in the same way that someone can cut themselves and a scab forms, and you just let it heal. Even when it gets itchy, you don't scratch the scab and pick it off or anything like that. You just let it do its thing. That's the same thing with the mind. It just is about just letting it be, observing it as it is, and letting it heal itself. And then from there, it comes back to the four qualities of the purified mind.
And Vipassana, it's 2,500 years old since the Buddha, refound it, found the technique again. And So it's really time tested, and it's been taken on a lot now by modern day psychology and science.
You know, many therapists and counselors now incorporate mindfulness and insight meditation techniques into their practice. So this isn't just new age talk, it's a method that's thousands of years old and is now being validated by modern science.
Their understanding that, really just helps with things like trauma, anxiety, basically what happens in Vipassana is it's basically a kind of self-observation thing. And so by observing yourself, this is really just a really quick version, but by observing yourself and your own kind of sufferings or your own dissatisfactions in life, all that kind of stuff that you're going through, all that, you begin to see that in others, and not just other people, not other human beings, but all beings, like all creatures. So you develop this compassion and love, and it's also purifying, as the videos talk about, it purifies the mind.
And in short, as the mind purifies, the 4 qualities of the purified mind shine through. So those are love, compassion, what's known as sympathetic joy at the greatness of others. So that means being happy for other people's success, their strengths, that sort of thing, not being envious or jealous or that kind of thing. And finally, the 4th quality is equanimity, or keeping calm under pressure, keeping your cool, not being thrown by things, keeping a balanced mind.
So it leaves you feeling lighter. So for me, it really leaves me feeling happier, and certain things I've been through in my life, they sort of alleviate. You get to see them through what would be a right perspective of what really happened, or forgiveness, all that kind of thing.
So I'm not perfect, and my journey is ongoing, but I've discovered that by understanding how actions that harm others and the world impact our own well-being, we can let go of those negative patterns more easily. So the practice really reveals that there's low-hanging fruit in making a positive change. And when we consciously choose non-harm, the fallout of destructive actions diminish, and that clears the path for deeper, more personal healing.
I'm not a perfect example of this. I'm still working on it. I've been at it for now 30 years. When I first found it, I was only 21 years old, and so I'd only just started to go out and hit the town and all that kind of stuff. And, I wanted to put on parties and be a club promoter, which I ended up doing. So that didn't really go so hand in hand with this practice. And so I wasn't expecting it to be so impactful. But over time, like once you see, I did my first couple of retreats, I basically did them back to back. And since then, I've known about this project APOW, that I wanted to do it. And, I first of all was, I was just a kid really at 21. And, I had fear around going forward with it. I didn't want to stand out. I just wanted to fit in, And so it's been a long journey getting here, and to the point where I feel comfortable, or where I just have to move forward with it and spread the word of what I've experienced there and what so many people have experienced as well. So I'm not trying to get you to do it. I'm just trying to tell you the foundations of what APOW is, and it's just based on like the truth, the reality of what we are, what humanity is, what life is, And there's been a lot of other, they talk about how the modern day mindfulness meditation comes from Vipassana. And even, about 10 years ago, when my father passed away, and my mother was really upset by that. And so I was trying to find her meditation to do, and I was looking up online because she didn't want to go do Vipassana. And everyone that I was finding, they were all sort of saying the same thing, like they were mindfulness, they were the psychologists, whatever, and they'd all studied under Goenka. It was all part of their bio that they'd done Vipassana, and then from there they developed a faster routine, or something that modern day people could do without having to do a 10-day retreat. But you do get the results that you put in the work for. So I can only really speak to the benefits that Vipassana gives, because that's what I've done. I jumped straight into the deep end, but a lot of people get a lot of stuff from mindfulness as well. Also the Anapana meditation, which is just observation of breath, which I'll put a link of that below, which goes to Goenka teaching that. But that's the first thing you do when you go to a Vipassana retreat. You do Anapana to build up awareness, but also build on concentration of the mind, that kind of thing. So anyway, I'll leave it there, and hopefully that's explained a bit of what's in the foundational videos, and looking forward to the next chapter. So follow, share, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Thanks.